All right, got one from a guy I've never seen a video from before. We should all be alarmed the rise and upcoming fall of Donald Trump.
I can certainly use my mind and my energy and my words to speak up against the what I think is fascist behavior. But many
I agree, very fascist.
people in the UK would say, "Oh no, you can't call him a fascist. It's too extreme of a term." But I submit to you that it is fascist behavior, and I think it's incredibly dangerous. And good people's silence enables this type of behavior. There's
Yeah, not saying anything is what enables powerful people to get away with things.
50% of my country. There's even people that have voted for Donald Trump that think this is terrible what he's doing. They have to speak up. And so it's important for people like me to show them the way to do that. You have to speak up. You have to bring people out. We had industrial leadership in the United States at the turn of the century. This has happened before in the United States. So in the 1890s, we had a period in the United States known as the robber barons. These were the railroad and the oil magnates, the shipping magnates. They were taking too much power and they were taking too much economic rent from the rest of the society. Teddy Roosevelt actually, when he became president, he broke those trusts. He broke the monopolies. He helped to create the labor unions, and he helped to create higher living standards for the poor and for the middle class. Another thing
Yeah, and that was a good thing overall for the American people, honestly.
that Teddy Roosevelt did, because he was actually the police commissioner in New York, he traveled into the tenements in New York. He said, okay, this is ridiculous. We can't have no building codes in New York. And so he forced all the developers to strengthen the foundations, put more steel in the buildings. We literally, at the turn of the century, the 1800s into the 1900s, we had tenements collapsing in the Lower East Side of Manhattan because the rich were taking advantage of the poor and not even creating the right building standards. So
And the rich are currently taking advantage of the poor, none of our wages have gone up, not to compete with inflation, and now they're just charging more and more for, normal household goods.
he fixed all of that, or tried to fix most of it, and then went to the industrialists like Edison, Henry Ford, Alfred P. Sloan, and said, "Listen, you got to take care of these workers." And Henry Ford said, "Okay, I'm going to pay the workers enough money so that they can afford the car that they're making in my factory. Moreover, I'm going to make sure that they have enough money that they can have a single family house and they can have access to a good school system for their children." So this way, each family had some level of hope in the society. And, he famously said, "I don't want them descending upon my Dearborn, Michigan mansion with tiki torches and pitchforks, rebelling against me while I'm enjoying myself. I want them to have secure economic lives and some level of hope in their lives."
And look at what Luigi did. And honestly, it might just be the start. It depends on how these companies handle things.
That got expanded upon at the end of the Second World War. The United States brought in the Great Society programs, more food for the poor, more health care security for the elderly. And then we did something called the GI Bill. I don't know if you guys would know what that is, but if you were in the American military, and most families had at least one family member in the American military, you got free college education if you came back to the United States. So you had poor Italian families where the dad was a Mason, but now the son went to war and he's becoming an accountant or a lawyer, or pick a family. And so this had a dramatic effect on painting those white picket fences. And so the neighborhood I grew up in, my dad was a crane operator. We had a small house, but a nice enough house. We had a sheetrock installer next to us. We had a landscaper. It was a very vibrant blue collar neighborhood. But every parent in that neighborhood said, "You know what? My kids, one or two of them, maybe all of them, are going to grow up and live the American dream. They're going to move from the neighborhood they're in now into something bigger, something larger." And I certainly did that. But where my heart breaks now for the country is the leadership in the country over the last 30 years has grown indifferent to those people. They used to care for those people. In fact, the Democrats, the people that are now voting for Donald Trump, their grandparents voted for Lyndon Johnson or
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of crazy how much the government doesn't care about the people anymore. I mean, you see him cutting health benefits and making people have to go to work to be able to get health care or basic needs, which I do agree with somewhat with, honestly. In some cases they can't though, and I feel for them in those circumstances, not because uh they wouldn't like to, but because they literally can't find a job, which is where I'm at. Not that I'm on any kind of benefits at the moment, but
Jack Kennedy, where their great grandparents voted for Franklin Roosevelt, but they're now voting for Donald Trump because it's an expression of anger more than it's an expression of hope. Trump is like an orange wrecking ball. Those people are saying to themselves, you know what? You're not taking care of me. You're not taking care of my family. Okay, I would like to hire somebody to hurt you. You see, this is the populist movement in the United States, and this is why he's so powerful. He can commit all types of sins. It's not just kicking the golf ball around. I mean, you could just list all of the major things that he's done, but those people are with him. Trump famously said, hey, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they'll stay with me. And the reason is they're angry. The reason is they have this sense of desperation about them, and so a result of which they are using him to express that anger.
If we talk about truth, just for a minute,
I mean, to be fair, I never cared about politics until Trump was president, not because Trump was president, but because politics never affected my everyday life until Trump was president. I wasn't feeling my pockets being pinched. I never lost my job. I mean, things changed when Trump became president, let me tell you.
I think it was Lenin that established Pravda as a result of the Russian Revolution. And now we have Truth Social. Pravda means truth in Russian. I think it was Hitler that started to talk about Lügenpresse, lying press, or fake news, as they call it now.
Yeah.
Is there and it gives me the chills, actually. If you see the red or blue line from Lenin through Hitler to what's happening right now, is that overrated? Or?
Well, not to me. So I have a podcast. It comes out of the United Kingdom. My podcast co-host, Caddy Kay, is a British journalist. And Dominic Sambrook, who does The Rest is History, is part of our podcast family. When I call Trump a fascist, they get very mad at me. They say that that's the wrong delineation. You can't call him a fascist. That's reserved for people like Hitler and Mussolini. But when you go down the list, as Robert is pointing out, when you go down the list, the us versus them, the demolition of the free press, to your point, and constructing the propaganda of something that isn't true, but is.
And now he's trying to rewrite history with the whole Smithsonian thing. Oh my God!
Explaining it like it is true. The scapegoating that's happening now in the society. Maybe it was Jews in Germany, but it's sort of African Americans and Latino Americans in our society. And if you go down the list, there's a great book by Lawrence Rees called The Nazi Mind. It was written a few months back, and I interviewed him on my other podcast. And if you just read his table of contents, there's 12 chapters in the book. Trump is 12 for 12 in terms of what he's doing and what he's pushing on the society. So now you have a choice. You can either speak out against that, which is the truth, or you can acquiesce to it. And the biggest problem that we're having in our country right now that I see is the fear. Because one of the things that these people do is they create lots of intimidation to silence you and to put you in a fear-based position where people are like, well, I'm going to let this slide because I've got to protect my family, and they start to make this equivocation. I can't do that because I once worked for him and I helped him. So I now have a moral responsibility to speak out against him and explain what he did. Moreover, I'm named after my uncle Anthony was on Normandy Beach.
I don't know why people would be afraid about talking out. In all honesty, the people outnumber the government. There is a way bigger there's a way bigger populace than either the military or any police force in the U.S. Like the people outnumber all of them. If it all came down to it, I'm just saying.
On the 6th of June, 1944, my uncle Salvatore fought in the Battle of the Bulge. These guys were brave enough to take a stand against fascism in the 1940s in harm's way. My uncle was actually a Purple Heart recipient. He was wounded. He got off the beach safely, but he was wounded a couple days later in a battle in a small town in France on the way to Paris. And by the way, think of these personalities. He was in a field hospital for 3 months, healed himself up, refused to be discharged, and fought in the Battle of the Bulge. So if those people who are in my family could do that, I can certainly use my mind and my energy and my words to speak up against what I think is fascist behavior. But many, people in the UK would say, "Oh no, you can't call him a fascist. It's too extreme of a term." But I submit to you that it is fascist behavior, and I think it's incredibly dangerous. And good people's silence enables this type of behavior. There's 50% of my country. There's even people that have voted for Donald Trump that think this is terrible what he's doing.
I mean, the numbers just came out. I think it was 60%, 64% or something like that of people were strongly disagreeing with Trump. Yeah, I don't know. You don't get more solid evidence than that,
Have to speak up. And so it's important for people like me to show them the way to do that. You have to speak up, and you have to bring people out. Particularly what he's doing in Washington, guys. I don't know if you're watching this. He's going to bring the National Guard into Washington now, and he's going to militarize the city. I can't tell you how dangerous that is from a perspective. Because once he militarizes the city, how are we going to get him to leave the city? Okay, see what he's doing? I know what he's doing because I know the son of a bitch.
Yeah, I mean, he's been there for 9 days at this point. And or the military have been there for 9 days at this point. They're staying for 30 days, and they might extend it. Who knows? The people of DC are definitely outraged. That's for sure. But that's the world we're living in now. Like, comment, subscribe. Link in the description.